G'day guys, Clint here, recording episode number 48 of The Full Landscape with Antonio from Zed's Gardens. We are, 3 or 4 days into a 7-day mandatory lockdown here in South Australia to stop the spread of COVID-19. So I thought I'd take the opportunity to try and do as many of these podcasts via Zoom as possible. Antonio is 21 years old, running his own business. It's always interesting when I do podcasts with people that have only just started out. The questions that we have are much more directed at, what are the things that you're dealing with at the moment so early in business, more than what are the things that we can, that you can learn from others. But I think it's important, even for people, those seasoned professionals that have been doing this for a very long time, to remember that there's, guys like Antonio, who's 21 years old, may have some insight or some tips that might benefit even some of us old hands. So enjoy this one. That's not a real fire, if anyone's wondering. So, yeah, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Cool, man. Well, thank you very much for joining me. I know you've probably got a little bit of spare time at the moment, courtesy of a bit of a lockdown. Obviously, if we can, before we get into it, if you can just introduce yourself to everyone that's going to be watching or listening, give us a bit of a background about, start back as you want to go into schooling, and how you got to where you are now running your own business.
So originally I grew up in the Riverland in a town called Monash. Grew up on a vineyard, so I've basically been around irrigation from when I was born. And then from there, obviously went to school. So I'm 21. From there, I went to school. Basically, just school for me was, I didn't mind it. I did okay. I did the bare minimum, passed. And then I went on to uni, did it for a little bit, didn't like it. And obviously moved up to Adelaide to study. And then from there, I kind of found my roots again and then thought, I don't think I can sit in front of a computer all day. I need to go outside. That's the way I was raised. And basically from there, that's all she wrote. My dad had a landscaping company in the Riverland, as well as he owned vineyards. And then I basically went into partnership to begin with about 12 months ago. After that, about 6 months in, because of the distance, it was getting quite tricky because I wanted to live my life in Adelaide and he obviously was going to stay in the Riverland. We decided probably best to just separate the partnership, but we're still kind of working together, but separate. And then that's where I kind of just full force went on my own about 6 months ago, and just been going ever since, I guess.
So the partnership with your dad?
Yeah. So we started as a partnership, basically combined everything, and we're going to go back and forth. I was going to work in the Riverland, he was going to work in Adelaide, but it was proving difficult because at the end of the day, if I've got machinery and he can't use it and we're in a partnership, it was kind of pointless in a way. So we thought it was good.
Fair, is it?
Yeah, we thought it was a good idea at the time, but then it was probably just best to just kind of do it separate. And then that's where from December last year, I kind of went as a sole trader, and then kind of just went as hard as I could from that point forward.
So the partnership was actually a registered partnership. You just dissolved the partnership?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. So we went in and we registered the business under Zed's Gardens, and then we basically just split the partnership, and then both went as sole traders. That's about it, really. So
he's still trading in the Riverland?
Yeah. So he does that.
What is it? What does he focus on?
He focuses on, I would say, between gardening and landscaping, kind of the smaller scale of landscaping, where I've really ramped it up and gone into the construction side of it. I really like the construction. I really see the satisfaction of transforming a garden or property from, whether it was an existing garden or whether it was a new development, and then completely flipping it and transforming it into, something really beautiful is really good. And that's where I found that was what I liked more, rather than kind of the maintenance side of things. And then I kind of progressed into the industry, I guess, that way.
So you said before you went to uni, did you end up, you didn't finish uni? You wasn't for you?
I did it for a year or so, and it just wasn't for me. I was passing and things like that, but I was really struggling to find the motivation. I was studying business property, So it was, in a way,
Business property.
Yeah, so it was basically a Bachelor of Business with a major in property.
Yep.
Business is very, I guess, broad, and then what they kind of do is get you to kind of pick a major, so you can get property, management, marketing. There's a number of ones, and then I did like the idea of property, and to be honest, it was kind of just the norm. Like, especially growing up in the Riverland, a lot of people, we go to school, and then it's like, what's next? Because unless you want to stay on the vineyard or just want to just kind of stay in the Riverland, there wasn't necessarily a lot of opportunity. So a lot of us were just like, let's go to uni, and then kind of fell into the trap of let's just go to uni, and kind of just, for me, I just picked business because that was the only thing that I would find enjoyable. Then I went into property, and then it was just after that, where do I go from here? Do I go into real estate evaluation, etc.? And for me, it was just too broad. I didn't like the path that I was leading, and I needed a change. And then I knew that I wanted to be outdoors, and kind of the stars aligned, as corny as that sounds, but it kind of just worked out the way it worked out.
Okay, so you went back home, was working with Dad for a bit, but then decided to come in. You wanted to stay in Adelaide.
Yeah.
So what kind of, I guess, what work do you do now? What are you focusing on, and is it what you want to be doing, or are you working towards something different?
I'm working towards it. So I did start off mainly doing a lot of lawn irrigation and things like that, and now I'm slowly moving into more of the construction side. So like your paving, retaining walls, I guess earth moving. It's not really construction, but kind of just really landscaping as a whole. So anything landscaping. So my business will go from retaining walls, right to the earth moving, irrigation, lawn, paving, fencing, you name it.
Yep. And so you've been on your own, what now, 6 months?
Yeah, 6-7 months. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so really young still. Have you got staff?
No, on my own.
Yeah. So this.
Sorry, go on.
Go ahead. There you go.
Basically, what I like to say is that my mini loader is another employee of mine, because without it, I would be pretty screwed. So that.
Yeah, and I think it's probably more than one. To be fair, I mean, the amount of work that.
Probably 10. Honestly, like what it can actually achieve, it allows me to kind of grow at a natural rate and not have to force like employees. Like I feel like when the time is right, I'll know. All right, it's time to get an employee and go. And it is time, but I'm still just. It's not easy, especially being my first employee and things like that. I want to make sure that I make the right decision and then grow from there. I'm really trying to build my foundation.
It's a good idea, and I think it's smart. I find kind of the first one or two, the first person you hire is really scary and hard, because you have a responsibility to that person, and like you worry that if it doesn't work out, how's it going to look and all that. And obviously, I think the first 2 or 3, you kind of, it's people that that you're like, oh no, that's right. When I need someone, old mate's going to leave working where he works and come, or she works and come work for me. Yeah. It gets hard when you get into that 6 to 8 out to kind of 25 or 20, because you're now having to expand out on there. But I think it's important to have a strong foundation, like you say. So I guess what have you found to be surprisingly easy, and what's been a challenge? Obviously, you're only 6 months in, and you're competing in an industry that's pretty established.
So I guess what I found easy for me was, I feel like I was always entrepreneurial. My mum owns a dental clinic, which owns 2 dental clinics in the Riverland. So my mum's very business minded. I feel like I've adapted a lot of that growing up. Watching her, she has about 15 staff, so she's always dealing with like HR to business to everything. And I really learned it from a young age, and that's where I kind of did take that route with business at uni. Even though I didn't stick to it, I knew that business was kind of my avenue. And then from there, like I said, I wanted to go outdoors, and then it kind of took me back to my roots with going, landscaping, irrigation, construction mixed with business was a really good blend for me, and I'm really happy with where I am at today.
So the business, obviously you would have done a year of business. Do you find that that's helped
So what I just say is, of course, it did teach me the fundamentals, and like I can't say that it taught me nothing. But what I can say is that being out in the field and learning it first person and the challenges that come with owning a business, I guess there's a lot more advantages with that than necessarily from a textbook, which is good because you do learn the fundamentals, you know, from finance to just marketing. There's a lot of things that the uni did teach us, just basic business. But like I said, when you're out in the field, there's so many variables that you can't predict, which it really puts you in the deep end. And it matured me a lot, especially being quite young. It's matured me a lot. But yeah.
So how old are you?
21.
Fucking hell, dude. 21, you got the whole world ahead of you, hopefully, provided we're allowed to actually be
leave the world,
humans again soon. When obviously you talked before about you like the idea of working outside, and that drew you back into landscaping. You know, I'm guessing. Well, firstly, what's the end goal for you? Like to have a larger company with lots of staff, or where do you see yourself, say, in 5 years?
It honestly changes. I wouldn't say every day, but it does change because I'm at the start of my career, and there's just so many avenues that I can take. So it does get a little bit overwhelming. And I go, what do I want to do? Like, what is my end goal? And I do have, like, one day it probably could be, it's always, no matter what, it's always going to be within landscaping, earth moving, things like that. But I'm like, do I want to focus more on earth moving? Do I want to focus more on landscaping? Do I want to just mix it all together? And you see some of the, you know, the likes of the bigger landscape construction companies in Adelaide, and I look at that, as motivation. And I think that's kind of what I would like to do, and kind of mix that, just that landscape construction. And I'm, you know, from inner machine to paving to retaining walls, lawn, irrigation, just a lot, essentially.
The reason I asked us, I did a podcast yesterday with Josh Hooper, who owns Landscape Techniques, and he's now just celebrated 21 years of running that business, which is your whole life. And one of the questions that I asked him was, you know, if you could, like, if you had the opportunity to go back and do working on site now, could you? And he's like, no way. Like, just you kind of move, you mature into your business so much. That's why the question was really going towards, in 5 years, you know, if you're in a position where you're just running the business, is that going to, and you don't know because you're so young, but are you going to be comfortable with that? Like, you know, because now you can't work on site anymore.
Because I do really like working on site, but I do really like acting as like the CEO or even just the COO, and just being like, just making sure that everything's in order and things like that. I like operating the business as well as I like doing the physical. So
and look, you can get that balance. I know Josh still has involvement in his design, and you know, he's got an elite team of construction guys, so he doesn't really need to get involved in it. But it's honestly, it would be worth. I'll see if he's happy to have a chat with you for half an hour at some point. It might help you get an understanding of, and I mean, I'm sure he will be. He's an unbelievably caring and kind human being. To just kind of shoot the shit and just be like, look, this is what I'm thinking. What does this look like in 20 years? You know, because he's basically doing what you're talking about, and whether or not earth moving becomes the pathway that you take, kind of thing. Obviously, both have their pros and cons. So,
I think for me, I've always loved machinery as well as I've always liked the construction side. So, like, growing up, I was in a tractor, I was on motorbikes from, you know, before 10 years old. So I really like machinery. That's why I'm torn between the two, because I love the thought of having, you know, large excavators and, you know, skid steers and things like that. But then I also like the landscape side of it. So just time will tell.
You can have both. Like, I'm not sure on Josh's machinery, but I know Ryan from Outscape Constructions has got multiple excavators and skid steers and trucks, and I find everyone takes a different path. Like, some guys will contract everything because machines are so foreign to them, and that's obviously not you. And they're just like, I don't want to deal with it. I'm just going to spend the money on like paying the contractors. I don't have to worry about the machines breaking down, hydraulic hoses blowing and whatever. And then other guys, and this is Ryan's path, and this is probably the path I would have taken if I ran a landscaping business, is I want control of everything all the time. So I don't want to be reliant on someone coming and being late or getting, having another job to do, or, just being humans and deciding not to do shit. So I feel that you'll probably take that path.
Well, that's why I want to do everything in house. Like Zed's Gardens, like you really come to us and you've got it all. So you've got, like I said, earth moving, irrigation, paving, whatever. We do everything in house. And look, if we do have to contract some stuff, you do. Of course, you can't do everything. And as long as I find kind of that right balance that I can take control of, let's say the 5 or 6 things that I do them very well, and maybe not try and take on everything. So just try and find that market that I really like and I'll do really well, because you can't be good at everything. But if I pick a few things and then just knuckle down and kind of build my business around those, then like I said, I can get contractors in to do everything else.
You'll find as time goes by, the things that you say no to are just as important as the things that you say yes to. And being 21, you'll say yes to everything because you're hungry and you want it all, but you start to overpromise people things and then you underdeliver, and it'll cause you anxiety and fatigue. And then eventually you'll be like, no, can't do that. But when you're 21, you can work 16 or 18 hours a day back to back for a very long time. And, if you don't have, I'm not sure if you've got kids or not, but if you don't have kids, you don't have that additional human responsibility that you can be selfish and just worry about yourself, and you can get a lot done. If are your parents mentors in this? Like, if you need to talk business, are you going to them, or where do you don't get involved? Don't let them get involved.
Nah, so they're really good to turn to. What I like to say is, like, they're not just yes men. Like, they don't just tell me what I want to hear. Like, they're really good at telling me, okay, maybe this isn't the right decision, because I can be very irrational. And I think that comes with age as well as just my personality. I'll just, let's go buy this, or let's go buy that, without actually breaking it down, doing the financials, and then like, hang on a minute, maybe that's not the right scenario, or not the right thing to do just yet. So they play a very big role.
So what's an example of something that you've wanted to do recently where they've just gone, "Hey, you're a dick. What are you talking about?"
So I actually went and signed a contract to purchase an excavator. And then I pulled out because I really thought about it, and I thought, you know what? Because what happened was there was a day when I had a day off, and I was like, I do need to go and look at some excavators because it's something that I need to get. And obviously, it's like a car. You go to the car, you want the car straight away. So I went to this place. I went everywhere. I went to every brand that I really liked, and bang, like shit. And then they're telling me, oh, you got to do like this. And it was just before the end of the financial year as well. And there were so many deals and things like that. And then I was like, all right, fine, let's do it. Signed it. And then probably a week later, I pulled out. And of course, they weren't happy about it, which is fair enough. But
did you lose it? Had you paid a deposit?
So I just signed the paper. So basically, they just put an order in for me, and they had allocated me one that from stock that was already coming in. And then, I pulled out, and probably the best decision I've ever made personally for me. It just wasn't the right time. And of course, there will be a day where we'll go get an excavator. And I was looking at.
And you have to go buy their excavator now, though. You know that.
Probably, yeah. No, I do.
You got to go back in. That's like
my tail between my legs.
And balance. Oh, I would. I'd say the salesperson would respect that. I know you're probably not the first person that's walked away from a contract, so I'm not sure that they went home and cried themselves to sleep that night. But
right. Well, I just thought, I've thought of so many different things. Like, at the end of the day, what I find to be very expensive in my industry is the dumping, because that's one thing that I cannot control. Now, one thing that did help me was I purchased a tipper truck. So that allowed me to go to maybe some other dumps that I wasn't maybe eligible for before. That got me a little bit cheaper pricing. But one thing for me is and I reckon, I don't know if Mudgee said anything to you before, but I've thought about maybe getting a warehouse up near that dry creek area. Kind of a warehouse / yard where maybe I can screen material and then that's because, like I said, that's one thing that I just find that is, especially because I'm not coming in with, you know, hundreds of tons a week and things like that. It's very hard for the landscaper or the contractor to get good pricing, and then it obviously raises the price of my quotes. So I thought, do I want a warehouse? Then I can, you know, if I get irrigation from you guys, I can then store it in the warehouse, and I'm not always having to come back and forth to you, because that's time. And time essentially is money. And I know that.
Well, yeah, when it's only you. Look, I guess my input one. Have you looked at using skip companies for getting rid of waste? Because I've found that was really cheap for us when we were doing. I used to do what you do a long time ago.
So for soils, I find
we used to use it for soil as well.
Yeah. So lately, a lot of the jobs I've been, you know, removing over 20 ton from just a residential property, like say 15 to 20 ton. And for me, having the truck, I know obviously me going to the dump is time, but at least I know what I'm going to pay. Sometimes I know with skips you do as well. I don't know. For me, I found that it's the most profitable at the moment. And just go straight to the dump. If I kind of remove the whole labor out of it, my time. That's why I try and work my jobs as close to the dump. So, you know, if I'm down south, I'm close to, you know, your places like Resource Co. And then if I'm up, I guess, northwest, you know, I'm close to the Wingfield area. And I always try and factor that in. So I'm not driving so far just to go to the dump, because then it is pointless. If I'm having to drive an hour one way just to go to the dump just for one load, you know, I don't have a one truck. So it would be a lot of runs. But yeah,
I've seen both sides of it. Like, I guess on the warehouse side of things, I'd encourage you to, like, I know guys that have got, you know, 6, 8 staff that don't, or 10, 12 staff that don't have a warehouse. I've seen it work and not work. You know, I guess a warehouse like this one that I'm sitting in now is what, 80 grand a year. You know, that's another 1.5 or 1 people, depending on the quality of their skill set. And if you're obviously only on your own, you know, it might be a bad use of money. And I guess I didn't want this. The idea wasn't for this to turn into a business consulting session, but it might benefit other people. We used to use skips because we like, and look, if the guys you're quoting against all have the same costs as you, like Landscape Techniques and Outscapes and Distinctive Gardens and Freeman and Standard Stone and all these guys that you're competing with don't have cheap dump rates compared to you. Like there's, you know, you'd have to be Sarah Constructions or some massive civil company to even maybe consider it, like Lucas Earth Moving, and then they own the dump. So then it's a different situation. So I wouldn't say that, I wouldn't get too caught up in focusing on if you're losing work or struggling. I mean, is that a thing that you?
It's not necessarily that. I just always try and find a way. Like, I'm very analytical, and I would like to try and find a way where if there's an avenue where I can make a little bit more profit, as long as it's worth it, not like necessarily 1%, but if I can make a little bit of extra profit, then let's do it. And that's where maybe
we used to use skips, man. Like we used to do. So the first thing we first left working for someone, I had a business partner at the time, and we used to get SA waste. They'd bring, say, like as big as a 10 cubic meter skip. But a lot of the work we were doing, we were skimming 100 mil off the lawn or 150 mil off the lawn, dumping it, putting in fresh loam, new lawn, and an irrigation system. That was one of the, because we used to do some work with referral work from Paul Munn down at Brighton. We paid them for referrals. And so we kind of got, you know, you can work out how many cubic meters you're taking out. The bins are all cubic meters. We'd have a 10 cubic meter bin rock up. We would contract a dingo company to come in and scrape it out, put it in the bin, and then the bin would get picked up that afternoon. And we found that was, I guess, time efficient and cost effective. But because irrigation is one of those skill sets that not everyone has, whereas a lot of people know how to drive a truck and tip rubbish off. So I think for us, we found our best use of our time was actually doing our highest profit work, which is irrigation installation, which I'd say yours probably could be, without knowing much about your business. And that was just good for us. But if you've got the truck, I can kind of see that you don't want to be not using your truck if you're paying for it as well. So how big's the truck?
Pardon?
How big's your truck?
So it weighs 3.9 ton. Its payload's 2.5 ton. So
okay. So you're not moving much stuff.
Like it's on the smallest side of things.
Yeah.
I guess well, I forgot what I was going to say. Go on.
Yeah. So that's, if you're doing a decent sized job, 100 square meters, you're doing a lot of runs with a truck. Yeah. Which can cost you a lot of time. I guess the other side of the skips thing. If you've got nowhere to put the skip, or you damage the client's driveway by bringing a skip in, that can be a concern as well. I remember us doing work in Medindi and trying to get a permit to stick a skip on the road there. They're not overly, they're not big fans of that. So
I guess for me, it's like I'd rather have the truck, because then at the end of the day, if there's a job where it will be easier to get a skip, I'll get a skip. Where I guess it's harder to have a skip with no truck for me, because at the end of the day, when I do paving jobs or when I do other jobs, when I found if I can go straight to the quarries, like, resource codes and things like that, where you get your recycled rubber, it's a little bit cheaper, and I go straight there, I can get it direct from the supplier. I'm skipping the middleman, going to landscaping yards. And that way, like I said, I'm, making a little bit more profit. Although it might not be a huge amount, it's a little bit. And I can go.
Yeah, but if that couldn't be better than the time you take to do it, though, could it? Or you're not paying a delivery and you're not paying a margin on material. Like if you drive to Resource Go and pick up 2 ton of rubble, instead of getting it delivered from, say, a Garden Grove or a Newton's or a Railways, you're saving the delivery charge plus whatever the margin is on the rubble. But how long is it taking you?
It literally depends on every job. Like I said, if I'm close, like if I'm honestly like 15, 20 minutes, for me, it's not necessarily always the money, it's more the stress, because sometimes, if you don't get the right
You're waiting.
They don't put it in the right spot. Once it's there, it's there. When I've got the truck in the right spot, and for me, that's kind of worth more sometimes. And just having the ability to go to the landscape, go to the quarry, or even if it is the landscaping yard, even if it is around the corner, I can get exactly what I want, and then it's kind of all in my control.
I know, like Justin from Habitat, his guys are big fans of picking up their own material, because they control how it comes out, and they're not so much tipping it out, but they actually, remove it from the truck themselves to reduce impact on their site. So there's obviously that as well, but it's interesting. I mean, that's why I like to do these podcasts, just to get different perspectives from different people, and then obviously
I don't know everything. Like, it's still 6 to 8 months in. It's still a learning curve for me.
I think the funny thing, when you're 21, you've got more time on your side than money in a lot of cases. So you'll use your time differently to how some other people might use their time. I think as more time goes by, you obviously accumulate more money, but you kind of your money's going up and the time left on the earth's going down. So you start, I guess, treating time differently to how you might have treated it as a 21-year-old. But I don't think anyone expects you to know everything at 21, and I definitely don't expect anyone. I don't think anyone expects you to tell them that they know everything at 21. And I think going into this market with a genuine, modest, like, I don't know everything, and I'm here to learn, and I want to be part of the community, and I want to, earn my stripes, is a really clean way to come in and get a lot of help from the more mature business owners, and I guess mature from an age standpoint and a mentality standpoint. If you come in modest. And when you ring them and ask for help, like if if you get a meeting with Josh just to shoot shit, you go in there all guns are blazing like you know everything. It'll be the last time that you talk to him, kind of thing.
And that's just not my personality anyway. Like, I'm always open-minded. I see things from every perspective, and I really like to learn. Like, I really like to see new things. Like, and a lot of the time, like, sometimes even just going to those resource codes and things like that, like, I just get a lot of enjoyment by watching the machinery and just seeing how, like, the huge places operate. And, at the end of the day, in Adelaide, like, they're at the top of the food chain. Like, they're the big boys in Adelaide, and all of that. And I like to see how they operate and maybe do things, and maybe you can pick it up. At the end of the day, there's a reason why they're at the top. So that's another reason.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That was more at the beginning. Today, like, not as much, but when I was first starting out and, going to the quarries or going to here and going to there, like, I was really fascinated. Like, it'd probably take me an extra 5 minutes that I'm there, because I'm just looking around and it's like, seeing if I can pick anything apart. Should I do this? Should I do that? But obviously over time, I have picked up those little things, and I'm not so conscious.
Sounds to me like you should probably start your own landscape supplies yard, mate. You like trucks and machinery?
I've considered it.
Well, if you want to buy one, I'll sell you one. Might be a bit of a trip. You live out north, don't you?
No, I'm west. I'm in Henley Beach.
Okay, not too bad. That's right. It's not far to get to railways. Just drive up the hill, head home to the beach at night.
That's it.
So what's What kind of work are you doing at the moment? Like, I guess, what's a couple of projects that you're working on? You don't have to say where, but what kind of stuff are you doing?
One project I'm currently in the middle of, well, I was in the middle of until we went into lockdown, was basically the house got built, I believe, in the last year, but it's only now that they've got around doing the landscaping. So I believe it's just over 100, in between 100 and 150 square meters of lawn and irrigation. There was a demolition of a shed and a concrete pad, and then basically, so there'll be a new little slab for a garden shed at the back, and then just lawn and irrigation. That's one job that we're in the middle of now. The next one, I've got a paving job coming up. So basically, just the removal of some soil and some existing vegetation, and then basically extending a concrete driveway with some pavers, and then just some simple stuff like just some hedges and things like that. And a lot of lawn and irrigation at the moment, and that's what I purely focus on. When I've got my machine, I've got my truck, and obviously loving irrigation from young. I found that, like you said, it is very profitable. I do really enjoy it. I just like the satisfaction of turning a property from just a wasteland to a nice green. Just seeing the transformation with that lawn down and seeing the sprinklers running, and just like a fine-tuned machine, it's really satisfying for me.
Honestly, like, I guess for what it's worth, I'd be focusing on that for a little while. Like, it's you can get if you were just doing lawn and irrigation residentially, and you do, but you can turn jobs around quite quickly. So you're kind of only in there for 3 to 5 days, if that, and you're getting paid straight away. And you might only be invoicing 3 to 5 grand, but you're getting that straight away, and your cash flow is strong, and then you start building it up.
That's what I found, and I've just kind of been doubling down on that. And the last probably 3 months, that's genuinely probably 90% of the work that I've been doing is just rip up, relay, or just backfill and lay irrigation. And like you said, it's very quick. You're in and out within a week. You get paid, you go to the next one. And I get that mix.
Are you getting these referrals, or is it just people that you've done work for?
Honestly, a bit of everything. So when I began, I found that obviously being a little bit younger, I knew my way around social media, and I found that between Facebook and Instagram, using advertisements and knowing kind of, I guess, not necessarily the market, but kind of how to market, and just high pages and then referrals, of course, as well.
Are you using high pages?
Yeah, I do use high pages. Like, I kind of have it there in the background. Like, say if there's a bit of a slow week, or every week I'm always trying to get at least 1 or 2 more jobs, and then obviously to keep that lump of work in front of me at all times. Because
it's an interesting runway when you're only doing 3-day jobs. You kind of I remember
you've always got to stay on top of it.
Because if you finish one and then you've got nothing to do, but then people aren't really going to wait 8 months for you to do a 3-day job. Like, you kind of have to find that balance between having it there but not too far ahead.
Yeah, that's right. And I found that, like, to begin with, I was like 1 week ahead, and I was just trying to wrap my head around being organized and trying to really understand business and landscaping and everything. And now that I've always got a good month or 2 of work ahead of me at all times, I'll try my hardest. And there's 1 week that I need to pump out, like, if I haven't really been getting too many phone calls, if I have to pump out a little bit more advertising, then that way I can get some consults and get some quotes out. And the more quotes I send out, the more jobs I'll get. It's kind of my theory.
Talk me through that process. I'm interested to know, like, how quickly are you getting quotes back? What are you producing them in Excel and Word?
Kind of write them up, or for them to respond?
Yeah. So someone calls you, say I call you today, I need to look at my place, and we're not in a lockdown. How soon? Well, firstly, could you do a quote during lockdown using Facebook or Zoom? And then secondly,
for me, I don't like to do it because there's always something that you miss that you don't see in person. Because I've done a couple quotes, over the phone and things like that, and I don't know, I don't really like it. Like, because then I get there and, like, there might be nothing drastic that I've lost, like, on the job because of something significant, but just little things that, you didn't account for this, you didn't account for that because you didn't see in person, and then, it's pocket out of your money, money out of your pocket, sorry. But yeah, every quote, it's very hard being, I guess, a sole trader, being on my own, have to worry about working, to consulting, and going to, you know, measure up and then having to do the quote and trying to get it within a reasonable time because I don't want to take 2 or 3 weeks. I try and honestly, I like to say 5 to 7 business days. It should be quicker, but realistically, you know, between work, you know, seeing my girlfriend, just trying to balance life, it's for me, it's honestly impossible to, you know, get it within a day or two, unless I've got a bit of a free period.
Yep. And you, so obviously now we've gone into this lockdown period. Talk me through what your process was when you saw that. You know, what were the first things you were going to do when that?
Funny enough, is because I'm very big on branding. I really like to, you know, build my brand awareness. And the first thing that I did was got my grinder out, got a couple of blades or a couple of buffing blades, and I'm started to strip my truck back because I bought it. It was a 10-year-old truck. I got a nice Suzuki MPR 300 tipper, and there's a bit of wear and tear on it, on the body. And I want to change the color, and I've been sanding it back and, you know, touching it up. Because to me, that's very important, is to have a brand. Because at the end of the day, I see a lot of contractors driving around, and maybe they don't need to because they're getting a lot of referrals. Maybe they've been in business for a while. But for me, like, I really like to have it. I want everyone to know my brand. Like, they see me driving past, they see the, you know, Zeds, they know it's me, exactly who it is. They're not guessing. So that's and it's just for me, I like the creative side of it as well. But
so you went straight into, like, you've just gone, all right, we're going to get locked down, let's make the most of this time.
Essentially, I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't indulged a little bit in the free time, a little bit, maybe a little bit more than I should have. Although I've tried to kind of, I did. 2 days ago, I got into it and started doing it, and I wasn't really well prepared, so I can only really strip it. I don't have, you know, the primer, I don't have the right paint and things like that.
Is that something you'll do yourself? You could prime and paint the truck yourself?
I'll get the cab.
You know how to do it?
I'll get the cab wrapped. I'll spray the body. I don't need it to be 100% perfect because it's going to be 1,000 times better than what it currently is. So I'm happy to do it, and I can't find it enjoyable as well. Yeah,
okay. I'm like, it's funny. My grandfather used to say manual labor was a Spanish guy he once knew, because we used to joke about how my dad's not great with. He's not keen on doing too much. Very smart guy, but figures he's better off paying someone to do the work than doing it himself. And I'm very I'll put my hand to it, but I wouldn't even know where to start painting a tray on a truck. So
well, usually I wouldn't, like, a lot of things, like, I do like to just pay someone to do it, but something like this, like, I know if I can save a few $1,000, because it is quite expensive, you know, I'll get the cab wrapped, but the rest I feel I can do it. It's a bit of a project of mine to do on the side.
So what's the plan moving forward? So we'll obviously, hopefully, I don't know. There was a press conference. I think there's a press conference happening while we're talking, but you know, we may or may not be allowed to go back to work Monday or whatever. You'll just.
I guess play it by ear. There's not really much we can do. I know, like, trying to get on top of my, like, I guess, you know, organising all my irrigation, because that's one thing for me that just gets messy like that. There's so many different things, and it's just, and I've got all my boxes, and, you know, I'll organise it one week, the next week it'll be like a bomb hit it, and then I've got to rearrange, and it's just trying to do all of that, you know, organise my garage, organise my truck, and then when I go back, kind of use my time wisely so that I'm at least going straight back into it. I'm not having to do it.
Hit the ground running kind of thing.
That's it.
That's cool, man. So if anyone's looking to get in touch with you, I've got no more questions for you. If anyone's looking to get in touch with you, is Instagram the best place, or email?
Instagram or Facebook, socials are always the best. I've got a website, Zeds Gardens. Anywhere. Give me a call, email me, anything. I'm always happy to chat.
We'll link up all your social stuff in the comments, or the description underneath the video. So thanks for making the time. I know you probably have a fair bit of spare time at the moment, but
thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
No, all good, man. And if anyone needs to get in touch with Antonio, you can find all the stuff in the section comments below. If anyone's got any questions for either of us, feel free to stick it in the comments section, and I'll hit him up if he doesn't see it. That is it.
Beautiful.
Thanks, man.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll hopefully see you back in normal world next week sometime.
Very shortly, hopefully. Not too long.
Yeah. Take care, man.
Thank you.
See you, mate.
Bye.